the next two classes we're going to go through color. Tonight we're going to go through reduction. So reductive printing or reduction, color reduction. So this method, we're going to be using just one block. And what we're going to do is cut into the block, do some printing, go back to the block, cut some more, do some more printing, and just repeat until we build up our layers. So we're using one block. So this is my example. So it's the finished print. So this is.
Oh God!
Oh my gosh!
This is an example of reduction.
Pardon me.
Wow!
Right?
I love that. The colors.
So this is all done in one block. So I started off with the yellow. So I printed each layer separately as I continued to print. So generally, you start with the lightest color first. There's always exceptions, but generally speaking, you usually go from lightest to darkest and build up your layers that way. So I did start with yellow. The first thing you want to do is carve out anything you want white, or the color of the paper. The colored paper. If you decide you don't want any white in your image, your first color might just be a solid square rectangle of color. And that'd be kind of your base layer for the other colors. But if you do want white, that's the first thing you want to do is carve out anything you want white. So these white highlights here, highlights here, they end up being here, right? So, and then you print your yellow. So we're working reductively. So when we're finished printing the yellow, we're going to go back and carve out anything we want to keep yellow, and then print the next color.
So it's like Easter eggs.
Just like Easter eggs. That's how I bring it up. Some people get it and some people don't. So some people don't Easter eggs.
Some people find them, some people don't.
That's right. So you want to print more than you want for your final edition, because once you start carving your next layer, you can't go back. So I suppose that's a disadvantage of this technique. Next week I'll show you multi-block, where each color has a separate block. For that process, you can keep on printing the image over and over again, try different colors. If you make a mistake on one layer, you just have to recarve that one block and continue on. Here, if you make a mistake, you have to kind of work with it or start again. The advantage to this is two advantages. One, registration, lining things up is a lot easier. Because you're working with that same block at the same size. It's easier to register. And second, you get to play around with layering of color. You do it with the other technique, but more so with this, I find. Because you're always working on that same block, you're always putting color on top of color. So you get to play with layers of color.
Reminds me a bit of maybe only the opposite of like batik.
A little bit, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So anyways, print all the yellow, go back and carve out anything I want to keep yellow. And then on top of that, I print this. It looks pink, but it's actually a transparent red. So you can play around with the transparency of color. So you can make your colors opaque, or you can make them transparent. And if they're transparent, the previous layer will affect the layer you're currently working on. So this transparent red on top of this yellow will make an orange.
That's cool.
And you can see where I've carved out the yellow.
Yeah.
And then you continue. So then I carve out anything I want to keep orange. I print this purple, which is also fairly transparent. The purple on top of the orange will give you brown. And then finally, I printed a green. It's kind of my final detail layer. I generally don't print black on top. You can if you want to. I find maybe the black's a little bit too heavy. Depends on the artist. So it's kind of reduction in a nutshell. Another example.
Was that a transparent color, the last one as well?
Yeah, as well. Yeah, I tend in my own work to do transparent colors. You don't have to. It can be very opaque.
What do you like about it? Like just
the way the colors kind of mix and combine together. Yeah, it's nice.
Those were all transparent.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can do, 2 layers, you can do 10, 12 layers, really up to you.
Wow.
This is another reduction. Okay.
How many colors is it?
Good many. I want to say 3 or 4. So it's not.
Should I put everything?
I did a blend for one of the layers. So.
I love that actually because it's just, I don't know, it's kind of nuanced and subtle and
And you can work your way up.
And that's chocolate.
That's Shinkole, yes. Yeah, that's Shinkole too. This is done on wood, so you can see the wood grain showing through. That's nice too.
Oh, wow.
that's really nice.
That's about 9 or 10 layers.
Wow.
Most of them transparent. So that's reduction. And we're done. Go.
Time to go home.
So I'm going to go through 2 layers. What I've done for reduction and working with color is I've made some blocks from seed packets. So I tried it for my last class, it worked out fairly well. So if you'd like, you can do like a 2-layer print just to play around with color. It's already been transferred, you've got a reference. There's no commitment. If you make a mistake, that's fine. Just experiment with color. So I got various plants you can choose from. Everything from squash to radish and beets. And then you can try a 2-layer print tonight, or do a layer tonight and then come back the next day. So I'm gonna do cucumber. It's probably the least colorful, so you can have more fun with the other ones. But maybe I'll try different colors. So again, the first thing you want to do is carve out anything you want white. And then you can start your first color. So we do have colored inks that you have access to. If you want to, you can mix colors and wrap them up, take them home with you. We have some wax paper or saran wrap, so you can mix a color here and take it with you. If you want to take a tube with you, work at home and then bring it back, that's fine too. Done that before. Along with the color, there's something called extender. So that's our transparent base. So this is what we use to make our color transparent. So again, you don't have to make your color transparent, but if you want the colors to kind of mix together in between the layers, then this is what you use. There's also an opaque white. So if you want your colors to be more opaque, you can add opaque white to your color. Keep in mind though, it does make your color a little more pastel-y. It'll change the way the color sits on it. I find that even if your color is really, really black, opaque, like you start off with a yellow, for example, and you want to print like say you're doing a wheat field, so yellow for the wheat, and then you do blue for the sky, and you want a nice light blue. It's really hard not to get a little bit of that yellow showing through that blue. Even if you have lots of white in your blue, I find it'll be a little greenish, just because of the way the blue sits on the yellow. So you have to kind of think about that when you're doing reduction. When you do multi-block, you can separate the sky from the wheat field, for example. So then the colors will be more pure or stand on their own. So you have to think in terms of layers.
What brand is your paint?
These ones, the Cranfield?
Cranfield?
Yeah, same ones over there.
Oh, those ones.
Yeah. You can also get, there's oil-based, there's oil paints that are water washable. Those work as well. Some students buy that. I think they're they're cheaper than these ones, and then they buy the extender and they buy the oil paint and then use that. That works
And
pretty
what are they? They're oil,
They're oil
water-based
paint.
oil?
Yeah, they're washed with water. They're water-soluble oil paints.
So do you use this extender with that?
Yep. That's
Okay,
what we use.
yeah, okay.
The extender makes it transparent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. so.
So is that your extender in yellow?
Yep, so I got extender in yellow and I make a nice green. I got some processed blue here. So yeah, just put it on your plexi and then start mixing your color. So I find if you're working with transparent base or the extender, it's better to add your color to your base rather than trying to, if you want a transparent color, rather than make a big pile of opaque color and then trying to make it transparent, because you'll probably end up with a pile that make the same size as this plexiglass palette.
So add the color to the opaque,
To the extender.
to the extender, I mean, yeah.
Yep. So everyone remembers their color theory. If not, then play around with it.
Opposites make gray.
Yeah. See my green? When ink is in a pile like this, it's always going to look darker than how it's going to print.
Oh, okay.
So you always want to test your color. Unless you want to throw caution to the wind. So you take a little bit on your palette knife and do a drawdown. So this is closer to how it's going to print compared to that. Probably a little bit darker than this. But this is closer to how it's going to print. So always test your color with a drawdown.
What did you call that?
I call it a drawdown.
Drawdown.
I don't, you can call it scraping. No, drawdown sounds better.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Basically, you just ink up like you would if you were doing black and white. So making sure everything's clean is really important. We're pretty good here. If you have like 30 first-year students trying to work in the studio all at once, you have to make sure it's clean. Yeah.
But if you wanted to, you could load the Baron like unevenly, like have like more of the ink on one side of it than on the other,
To make it darker, or
just to have a gradient.
oh, gradient. I'm gonna do that for the next layer. Yeah. So all we have here are brayers that are this size. So they're okay if you're working small. If you're working larger and you're working with a transparent color, it's a little tricky. Ideally, you would have a roller or a brayer that's wider in diameter, so you can do one pass over the block. Because what will happen is, if you have a really transparent color, when you roll, you kind of pick up the image onto the roller. Like if you look closely, you'll see these cut marks show up here as little spaces. And then because this is smaller than this, it'll lay it back down, so you get kind of a ghost image of your block.
Oh,
So one
roll,
pass.
one
So
pass.
just-
Ideally, but
Ideally, one pass.
this is what we have here. When you go to the university, I'll show you what we have. I might bring I have a brayer at home that's bigger, it's like this. So if people get into color, I can bring it in. You can have a larger block. I brought it in last time, it helps. So you can kind of get away with it by kind of fanning in different directions to kind of hide it. And that'll help. But again, ideally you want a roller with a diameter that's bigger than your block to avoid that ghost image. Getting a double image on your block. We don't have that, so you can fan it out, and it actually works okay. So fan it out, go in different directions, and keep in mind that you'll be doing multiple layers. So even if there's a little bit of a ghost, the next layer might cover it. It's a little bit
Oh, yeah,
darker.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
But what happens when, like, say, you were saying you would make multiple images? Like, so is that gonna show up on your piece of paper when you make multiple images? Like, say you made 10 with this green, right?
Right. Mhm.
Oh, or when you ink it up again on the plexiglass, it'll disappear?
It'll disappear. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
alright,
it'll go back.
yeah, okay.
So fan it out and then print. I'd recommend doing 1 or 2 newsprint proofs, just like in black and white, to kind of get the ink sitting on the surface. For the demo, I'm just going to jump ahead and go for it. So centers on top. If you want, you can make a registration sheet. And then print.
I said, I think Winnipeg would be really great. Goes to the Vegas.
Day trip home, 10 hours.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'll probably do another. Ink it up again.
Where are you gonna go shopping?
So you can do this on rice paper too, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, with a thinner paper, it might be easier for printing by hand.
Yeah.
And let it dry and then shinkai.
So, you did your stuff. Nice, good.
You even have sound effects.
Hmm?
You even have sound effects.
I know.
It's impressive.
So, newsprint. I'd start with newsprint just to kind of build up. You can see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go back and carve up more. So in between printings, I usually will. I usually don't wash my blocks. I'll just take some newsprint, kind of strip off the rest of the ink. So you're just printing it without inking it up. Kind of like that. Do that a few times.
So you use a few pieces from newsprint
Yeah.
or whatever. So why would you do that instead of cleaning it somehow? Is there a benefit to that?
That's what I'm used to doing. I find that sometimes if you wash it, sometimes you get water and ink in the cut parts,
Right.
and they get a little bit dirty, and you have to spend time cleaning it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you clean your?
So before I took this class, I was self-taught.
Right.
And I always washed my lino, my lino pieces, and they do kind of start to warp. The water sinks
yeah.
in.
That's right.
I would agree. I like it better when you don't wash them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just makes more sense.
And
all around.
it would take a while to dry. So if you were to wash it and then carve, it'd be damp still.
Right. It
And
carves
then
differently.
you probably wouldn't be able to print again tonight.
Right.
If you were to wash that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the cut parts are gonna be more porous than what
Yes.
is behind, so.
Yes,
if
it won't
there-
print.
If it
well.
swells anywhere, it's gonna be the actual cut, which is weird.
Yeah, it is.
I've had a few students though who's that's what they do. They'll wash their blocks. So
Huh.
I think that maybe at the most I would take a damp cloth and wipe it.
Mhm.
I don't know if I take it to the sink and submerge it in water.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a habit I do. If I work on wood, and if I'm using oil-based inks, not the water-soluble stuff, but oil-based inks, that you have to use a solvent to clean. I would never use a solvent on a wood block because the solvent gets in the wood and makes it mushy. I've seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
It's gross. So yeah, I'll go ahead and print as many of these green ones as I want. I'm going to print one. And then go back and carve more. So again, the idea is you're reducing the block. So when you're finished, depending on how many layers you have, there might be not much left of the block. And there'd be layers built up in your paper.
Maybe to push Allison's back.
Ideally, you want to make sure the ink is dry in between each layer. So I'm going to do 2 layers tonight. It should be okay. I wouldn't do more than 2 layers, one after the other. So, if you want to do a 4-layer print, I'd probably do maybe the first 2 layers, the one go, one sitting, and then come back the next day or 2 and do the next layer, and then finish up. The more layers you have, the longer it takes to dry, because at that point, it's not ink being absorbed into paper, it's ink on top of ink on top of ink, so it takes longer to dry.
Oh, yeah.
So this robin that I did, I actually did that in a day. I don't know if you remember the blizzard of, 2007?
Mm-hmm.
I was stuck at the university, and that's what I did.
There you go.
So you
Yeah,
can
I
do
do
it in a day.
remember that
Yeah.
because I took an art history class and I just made it to PA before everything
Oh,
got
wow.
snowed down.
Well, that was good time.
Well, it was really snowing. It's like evening, better get going.
Good plan, please help.
That's good.
Yep. So ideally, you'd wait for a layer to dry. So if you could wait overnight and then print the next layer, that'd be great. If you're trying to get something done for a suite or a deadline, then you can get away with printing your first layer, going back, carving your block, and then printing. But you'll see even tonight, some of this green will probably strip off onto the block and it won't print evenly. You'll get some kind of blotchiness. And if it's really kind of just tacky, sometimes the block can stick to the paper, and when you pull the block off, you can rip your paper. So it can cause all kinds of problems.
So is it more ideal to do one color and then the next day do the
Yeah,
next color? And
ideally.
the next day do the next,
Yeah.
that's ideal.
Ideal.
Okay.
And depending on your image, you'll need some time to carve and stuff, and maybe you want to take a break after printing and carving for several hours, and
Okay.
allow for that. But
Mhm.
if you are in a rush, you get away with 2 layers if you're careful.
there any way to accelerate the drying of the ink safely?
I don't know if with this ink they do. Some inks come with, you can get a dryer, like a cobalt dryer, which I've heard is very toxic.
Cobalt's bad, yeah.
Yeah, so I've never used cobalt dryer. I just let it dry.
What about like just a fan?
A fan will help. Yeah.
An oscillating fan.
Also, yeah, airflow will help for sure.
Okay.
It's easier to look at it the way I'm carving it instead of the other way around, right?
Yeah.
Even though I can see what's white, it was just like when I was originally doing it like this, I'm like, how is that tail working out? It's not.
Yeah, it's a good idea actually.
Well, I guess I'll grab one of those seeds. And you know what they always say, draw what you know. I think I know carrots.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah,
like,
you
you
were
know your
telling me that.
veggies and carrots especially.
After all the carrots
Oh,
I've been
sorry.
working on.
Yeah.
I don't have carrots.
Oh, don't you carrots.
Forced out of the box.
Oh no, it's squash.
We got squash.
Oh,
The package of carrots I have has no
beautiful.
picture on it. It just says carrots.
Oh, that's boring.
So you could use that if you want and write the word
There's
carrots.
like a Polish dictionary from way back, like 1600, and for the definition of horse, it says, everyone knows what a horse looks like.
That's it,
That
that's
was
the
the definition of
definition.
horse.
I like that dictionary, that's kind of fun.
So, in the same way,
Yes, everyone knows what a carrot looks like, is that what you're
Carrots.
saying? Yeah.
you already know what this looks like.
Yeah.
True.
Those are there. I'll do the next layer right away. So you guys can see.
Ooh, those are nice.
Yeah, they
I
are.
like all the shade, like the shadows and so on.
Fine lines, and when I try and do fine lines, I just F it up so egregiously.
Do have a press. It does help.
You do have
Let's do it
a
the
certain
other way
amount of
around.
skill and
This is
that goes with that.
How did you do that?
I didn't do it.
It was, oh, he did them.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got them done already.
For us.
Yeah.
I love you.
There are no excuses now.
This is a little craft thing we get to do.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the past, I would just do the demo and then leave it up to
Beads.
students if they want to try color, and some students are a little hesitant, because color, it's a lot to figure out and do, so I try to make it simple and never have everyone at least try it. And everything's set up for you, so,
More interesting than doing a Rubik's Cube.
yeah, yeah.
I gotta get my chicken transferred too.
Like I said, the color ones you can
Behind
start
already.
doing- Yeah, you can start those today and then after. Continue on.
Do this now and then I'll do this at the end. Is that what you're thinking too? Or should I start with transferring this and then do this?
Up to you. If you want to start carving the color, I'm just gonna do the next layer and then I'll finish the demo and then
Yeah,
I can help you with the transfer.
okay.
But yeah, you can start carving while I do stuff.
So if you wanted to, depending on your proportion of extender, you could get a very, very transparent color.
Absolutely, yeah. I find with color, you tend to expand out the space, the room that you need to work in. So again, at the university, when you have, you know, class of 20, 25 students, trying to do color, it gets a little crazy.
How many more colors are you doing?
I'm gonna do just one more layer, but I'm gonna do a blend. Just show you how to do a blend. So I got two colors. I got a red and kind of a purplish blue. So I'm gonna do a blend, a really small one because the block's really cool. Grab another.
I was thinking I might need to buy a really big sheet of that.
Plexiglass.
Yeah, like my studio at home and at the university we have glass tables, like tables with glass tops. So
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Glass will work?
glass is great. I thought about I had a big piece of glass, but because there's other classes in here, I don't want to bring a lug of piece of glass up from the basement every week.
You know what, I
Just
have
asking
a
for it.
bunch of empty frames with glass, just pop
Yeah.
the glass.
Sure.
Cause you can wash them off after.
I find glass is easier to clean. Sometimes this ink for some reason sticks to this
in there.
glass, so you kind of get stained.
You could use like an X-Acto blade to, like, not an X-Acto blade,
Oh, razor blade?
razor
Clean.
blade.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Figure out where you want your blend to be. There. So basically put your colors where you want them. I'm just doing two. You can do more than two if you wanted to. You can even do a color to the extender and go from like a color to a fade to a transparency or nothing. It's quite nice. And then I'll grab this clean roller. I'm going to start off by rolling like I normally do, just back and forth. And then after a while, I'm going to move the roller, the brayer back and forth a little bit like this as I roll, and then I'll blend the colors together. It's actually really easy to blend colors that are really good. So just go back and forth. Just be careful when you do blends not to roll in a different direction. 'Cause
Yeah,
then
that's what my gut would have been.
you'll destroy your blend.
Uh-huh, oh,
And as you continue on, because you're kind of moving this way and that way, the blend will start, the colors will become more blended. They won't be as distinct as at the beginning, so they'll change a little bit just because you're rolling by hand. So try to keep it as consistent as you can, but it will change a little bit, and that's just part of hand printing. When you're rolling up your block, it's not a bad idea to, you can either kind of mark with a marker on your Mylar where your block's gonna go and where your roller starts, just so you can keep consistent as much as possible, so you're not, it's an exaggeration, but you're not over here inking up one time and then over here this time, you know, so keep track of where your brayer is relative to your block. So I can usually mark it with a piece of tape or with a marker. So you can see the blend
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I like that.
Might not have enough ink on there. So you can't really fan in different directions if you're doing a blend, but you
No.
can kind of at least try to go a little bit in this way and that way a little bit to kind of help with that ghost image that might happen if your block's a little bit bigger.
I like the idea of doing like a blend with the transparent.
Mm-hmm. The fade.
Yeah.
So I missed the beginning of this. Which one's is the red the transparent? Are they both transparent?
It didn't add any transparency to the blue,
Okay.
but I think the blue on its own is fairly transparent. It's like a phthalo blue. The red I made transparent.
Okay.
Hoping when the red hits the green, you'll get kind of a brown. Because the red and the green are complementary colors. So for registration, the technique I'll show you tonight, basically you take your block and put it face down on your paper. It's sometimes not a bad idea on the back of your block to write the word up, put an arrow. Maybe do the same on these water prints, the pencil, just so you know which way it's up, especially if you're doing a lot of prints and it's getting late and we're trying to do a
Sure.
demo in front of a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no.
Images start to vibrate because of coffee.
Yeah. That's right. Basically, you line up the block with the layer that's on the paper. And then kind of press it down. The ink will kind of help stick the block to the paper. Bring it to the edge of the table and flip it over. So you have to be careful because it can slip. So that's why you make more than you need for your edition, because things will change and things will happen. Next week I'll show you another way to register as well. But that's a simple way to register. Now, honestly, I've done that for this print. I did it for the Robin. I just flipped it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you use the pins or?
No, I hate registration. I'm bad at it.
Me too.
I wouldn't be able to figure out the pins. I know it's supposed to make it easy, but
Whenever I encounter something that is full of work or just something I don't want to do, I was saying that is the proper use of AI. Get them to do it.
I don't think
Stop
Get
robbing
them to
artists.
do
I don't think AI can line up the registration for you.
Oh, I bet.
What use is it?
If you get your own robot,
Your
they'll,
robot
they'll
arm,
do
they'll
it
come
for you.
down.
Yep,
I
yep,
guess
they'll
so.
do it for you. For sure.
That's my second layer.
Huh, oh wow.
Without thinking too much. So maybe a little bit opaque, but
Nice.
you can see the green's kind of showing through.
Yeah.
Color. So it's not as bright as that because it's affected by the green. So if I wanted it to be more subtle, I can go more transparent. at this point, I can go on to my next color, do some more carving and go on to my next color, and continue on.
You always make it look so easy, you know?
Yeah, let's see. Any questions or? So some color here already, we can mix up some more color. But yeah, we can give a reduction color a shot with these seed images. So then next week we'll do a multi-block in Jigsaw.